Solo Witness just became a lot easier due to the new artifact mods that have been released in Act 2. With an upcoming Steel Hunt nerf, this solo will probably get much harder in the near future, so I wanted to release a guide detailing the strategies I and others have used to complete this solo. I'll assume that anyone watching this video has a pretty good understanding of the mechanics of the encounter, but may be lacking insight into the specific considerations of damage and the loadouts. The video will be separated into mechanics and damage, but first I'm going to very quickly cover the purpose of each loadout so I can reference them later on. The first loadout is the Liar's Handshake loadout. You start each phase on Liar's Handshake in order to one-shot the Strand Subjugator when he spawns in. Each time you destroy a glyph, the Subjugators spawn in, but if you only kill one of them, then that one won't respawn when breaking subsequent glyphs. We abuse this by ignoring the Stasis Subjugator, so that we only have to kill the Strand Subjugator once at the start of each phase. We eliminate the Strand Subjugator over the Stasis one because he's just a lot more annoying. The Lucky Pants loadout is mainly just for better ad clear. It can be useful to kill the Strand Subjugator if he respawns, which can happen if the Stasis Subjugator walks off the map, but it's really for building Transcendence and wiping out all the Chieftains. This build also has your DPS abilities, so that when you swap to your damage loadout, your abilities are charged. Other people use Stombies and just use an SMG for ad clear on this build, but it's up to preference really. I found Lucky Pants to be very potent for ad clear. There are 2 regular damage loadouts and 2 final stand loadouts. The first damage loadout is for the first 2 phases, where you use Apex, a holster mod, and 2 surges. The holster mod is important for the rotation, which we'll get into later in the video. The second damage loadout is for the 3rd phase, where you use triple surges and have Edge Transit prepared for final stand. The first final stand loadout has Celestial Nighthawk and triple solar surges, and the second has triple void surges with Knucklehead Radar. The other loadout I have is an ammo pickup loadout. This is the loadout I swapped to immediately after first and second damage phase, and it has scavenger mods, reserve mods, and a shoot to loot weapon so I can quickly refill my entire reserves before the final shape timer restarts. I've removed the heavy weapon from most of my loadouts so that I can use them for all 3 phases, since I use Apex Predator on the first and second phases, and Edge Transit on the 3rd phase. You can do this by saving a loadout with a blue weapon and then dismantling it, so that when you swap loadouts, it will just keep whatever heavy weapon you have on at the time. For my subclass, I'm using Prismatic with Threaded Spectre and Winter's Shroud. Threaded Spectre helps during damage to bait the chieftains into attacking your clone rather than you, making it less likely to shoot one of their projectiles during damage. Winter's Shroud is used to deal with the Subjugator as we mentioned before. For fragments, I have Purpose for restoration on orbs, Protection for better survivability, Dominance for a debuff during damage, Dawn for Radiant during damage, and Courage for a buff to Golden Gun during damage. The last fragment is really up to preference. In my clears, I used Facet of Command to get a free reload using the Transcendent Grenade, but other good options are Facet of Hope for better dodge regen during damage, and Facet of Ruin for slightly more damage on Stasis Shatter. For this guide, I'll refer to each hand as its corresponding resonance. For example, the hand that gives you the square buff, I'll call the square hand. A big part of the mechanics is trying to minimize your stacks of resonance. The reason for this is because once you're at 3 stacks of resonance, you have to cleanse, which is risky and a pretty big time sink. In general, you want to minimize the amount of resonance you pick up, so you should pre-fire your primary at the hand that you're trying to shoot, then quickly dip in and out of its attack to read or break the hand without picking up the buff. The general idea for the mechanics phase is to initially focus on only doing one hand. The reason for this is because when breaking the same hand multiple times in a row, the boss will spawn an additional hand. More hands essentially increases your chances that at any point in time, at least one of the hands will require the resonance that you are holding. Since the triangle hand usually spawns where your character is standing, this is the easiest hand to break. So at the very start of the phase, shoot the triangle hand without picking up its resonance, then grab either the circle or square buff depending on the symbol that the triangle hand showed you. Now just wait for the triangle to spawn on you and break it. This is where we go to this safe spot behind the rally banner and prep all of the glyphs using a 684 draw time bow. The reason for this bow is it does just barely not enough damage to break the glyph, making it much easier to break multiple glyphs with a single glyph breaker buff. After prepping the glyphs, head to the left side of the map to stack Combination Blow and kill the chieftain on the platform. Go for a double break and immediately dodge next to the Strand Subjugator when it spawns in. If there's a Weaver nearby, Melee it and dodge again to freeze the subjugator. Otherwise, just punch him. With combo blow times 3, cross counter will one-shot the subjugator if he's frozen, so you want to try and set it up like this to avoid him outplaying you. Be very careful of Screeves when killing the subjugator, because if he's frozen, the shatter will cause them to explode and you'll most likely die. Once you've killed the subjugator, the mechanics follow this general pattern. Read triangle hand, grab whichever buff triangle needs, break triangle hand, double break glyphs. After the first 2 triangle hands, you don't really need to focus on only breaking the triangle hand, just try and be as efficient as possible. It's pretty hard to explain how to do this, but here's some things to keep in mind. You want to avoid having to go anywhere near the stasis subjugator, since you can't kill him as we talked about before, so try to prioritize anything on the left side that you can do. As mentioned before, try and avoid picking up resonance as much as possible. If you have a choice between picking up the triangle resonance to break the circle hand on the left side, or breaking a square hand on the right side with your current buff, you would always prefer the latter to avoid stacking your resonance higher. Generating orbs is vital, as they are your one and only source of healing. With restoration, you can survive almost anything in this room, so you should be making orbs constantly and picking them up whenever you need to. If you need to, swap to an explosive payload weapon for the test, and try to do the test where you prep the glyphs for safety. Other than that, just get in the reps. Maneuvering this room is difficult, and the mechanics can be finicky, but the more time you put in, the better you'll get. After you've broken 5 glyphs, or at around 1 minute 15 seconds on the final shape timer, swap to your Lucky Pants loadout so you'll have your abilities ready for damage. Once you have the final Glyphbreaker buff, adds will no longer respawn, so if you need to generate ammo and have a lot of time left, try to avoid getting the final Glyphbreaker buff until there's less than a minute left, so that you can farm the adds for ammo. Once you have the final Glyphbreaker buff, try to clear as many adds as possible, focusing on the left side first, and then the chieftain on the right side that's closest to the damage plate. Move special bricks if you need to, make sure you have 7 times explosive light, and swap to your damage loadout and prepare for damage. In this section, I'll describe the damage phases in great detail, but while I'm actually showing the damage phases on screen, I'll include graphics of each buff that I'm using so that you can get a better idea of what I'm doing at each point and why. First, let's start off with Still Hunt. When firing Still Hunt with Nighthawk, you need 6 precision hits to fully charge each Goldie shot. Still Hunt has 6 shots in the mag, but the first shot doesn't count towards the charge since it will be the Goldie shot, meaning you'll always come up 1 precision shot short of charging the next Goldie. To prevent a lengthy reload animation, we use a solar holster mod to automatically reload this final shot, but since Still Hunt needs to be stowed for this to work, we fill in the time the holster takes by shooting our rocket and throwing abilities to refresh radiant and debuff timers. Knowing this, the general pattern of the damage phase will be fire 5 shots of Still Hunt, including the Goldie shot, fire 2 rockets using abilities in between those rockets to refresh radiant and weaken, fire the remaining 2 shots of Still Hunt while holding reload to instantly cast the Goldie once it's been charged. After that, we do it again. 5 shots of Still Hunt, 2 rockets with abilities, 2 shots of Still Hunt, special reload, repeat. We also use Transcendence and our super to cancel the animation of the Still Hunt Goldie, which can be done by just using these abilities immediately after the sound cue for popping Still Hunt Goldie. Now that you know the general guideline for the rotation, let's go through a damage phase play by play to see specifically what to do and when. After breaking the last glyph, pop Still Hunt Goldie and wait for the plate to start moving before throwing a grenade and dodging forward. Immediately fire a rocket and wait for his chest to fully light up before starting the rotation. 5 shots of Still Hunt, rocket, melee, rocket, 2 more shots of Still Hunt, special reloading and cancelling with Transcendence. 5 more shots of Still Hunt, rocket, melee, grenade, rocket, 2 more shots of Still Hunt, special reload and cancel with super. Immediately super, then back to 5 shots of Still Hunt, rocket, melee, grenade, rocket, 2 more shots of Still Hunt, and special reload. After this Goldie shot, I won't have enough Still Hunt ammo to charge another one, so I'll need to shoot to loot before my mag runs out. In my opinion, the best place to shoot bricks from is on the left side of the plate towards the back, and since the boss is about to beam the back left hemisphere of the plate, I'm going to wait until that beam is gone to go for my shoot to loot. I'll fire off the majority of my mag before throwing a smoke and going for the shoot to loot, meaning I'll have an easy time getting to the brick quickly and not wasting too much time. If the boss was beaming the back right hemisphere of the plate here, I would opt to smoke and shoot to it immediately after the Goldie shot, as the second beam would completely block my line of sight to the special bricks. After this shoot to loot, I do one more still hunt Goldie, then I shoot a couple of shots, fire a rocket, throw a grenade, dodge, fire a second rocket. Then it's just emptying still hunt. One more special reload, and we're done. I'll play the damage phase with no commentary now, so you can see a real-time example of what I just described. Here's some things to keep in mind while learning the rotation. It's super important that when firing still hunt after the 2 rockets, you hold down your reload key as soon as you start shooting. Holding down reload well before the Goldie's charged will make it cast a whole lot faster, making your DPS a lot higher. On the first swap to your rocket, if you do the rotation fast enough, the holster won't actually kick in before you get both your rockets off, since you're only using a melee and not a melee and a grenade. So as you get better at the rotation, you'll have to consciously pause before swapping back to still hunt at this part of the phase. You'll notice during the damage phase that I actually throw the Transcendence grenade a little bit to the left. You don't really need to worry about this, but it does slightly increase your damage because of the hitbox of the grenade. When dodging the boss's jump attack, try to avoid double jumping. Getting the timing down for single jumping can be a little tricky while also trying to learn the damage rotation, but it's definitely worth it. Holding shoot while swapping weapons means your guns will fire immediately as you swap to them, eliminating small time losses throughout the damage phase. Golden Gun has a weird interaction where firing it immediately after you cast it gives it about 10% extra damage. This is something to keep in mind, especially for Final Stand, where every bit of damage counts. In order to stack Envious Assassin properly, keep getting primary weapon kills and pulling Edge Transit out until it has exactly double the base mag. So 14 if you have 7 shots with backup mag, and 16 if you have 8 shots with backup mag. Once you've doubled the mag, don't pull it out again until right before damage, and ensure to get around 10 ad kills to fully stack it. If you're low on time and still haven't stacked Envious, using Still Hunt on ads will stack it twice as fast. It's important to note that if you swap the Edge Transit after it's over that double mag size, you'll lock in the mag and won't be able to overflow it anymore. So, for example, if you have an 8 mag and swap to it and the mag displays 19 shots, you won't be able to fully overflow it to the 24 anymore. To remedy this, just fire Edge Transit until it goes back down to that double mag size. So in this case, fire 3 shots to go from 19 to 16, swapping off it again to get your 10 ed kills before damage. Before starting third damage phase, lower the health of the right side chieftain closest to the damage plate, and when you shoot the final glyph, proc Lucky Pans to kill both this chieftain, as well as the chieftain on the left raised platform. This is mandatory unless you want to tragically wipe Final Stand by shooting a chieftain projectile with your grenade launcher. If you did a lot of damage in the first 2 phases, the plan will be to save Transcendence for Final Stand, making it a little bit easier. Whether or not you use Transcendence in third phase is a judgment call, but just remember the closer you are to the text under the health bar, the more you'll need Transcendence to reach Final Stand. Third phase is all about sending the boss to Final Stand while having a Still Hunt Goldie ready. It's a lot less scripted than phases 1 and 2, and will be something you need to get experience with, but here's some general advice for this phase. Try to get the boss as close as you can to Final Stand as quickly as possible, then send him with the regular firing mode of Still Hunt, saving the Still Hunt Goldie for final. If you're using Transcendence in third phase, try to throw the melee and grenade after every manual reload, but do not throw the melee when Transcendence only has 25% of the duration remaining, since you probably won't get it back before Final Stand. Also remember that throwing the Transcendent grenade to the left gives you a better chance of freezing the boss for slightly more damage and a Facet of Command reload if you're using that fragment. Make sure to not use Acrobat's Dodge, as without 100 mobility and Facet of Hope, you'll not have it in time for Final Stand, since Transcendence does not give you back your class ability. Try and use Shoot Salute as often as possible, and try to use it when he's not doing beam attacks. Here's an example from my updated clear of sending the boss into Final Stand with Transcendence. Now here is my friend Curly's third phase, where he sends the boss to Final Stand without needing Transcendence. Final Stand without Transcendence is very tight, and you want to be applying a Darkness debuff to the boss before Final to give your super a little extra damage from Facet of Courage. This is why the Final Stand loadouts should have a Strand primary with the perk Slice. Immediately after sending the boss to Final Stand, pop your Still Hunt Goldie and swap to the first Final Stand loadout. When you come out of your menu, Acrobat Dodge towards the edge of the plate and shoot an ad with your Strand primary weapon to pre-proc bait and switch. Shoot the boss a couple of times to apply Sever, swap to Still Hunt and throw your Magnetic Grenade. Next, activate your super as the witness moves his hand away from his chest, holding fire to immediately shoot the Golden Gun and Still Hunt. Once the Still Hunt shot goes off, activate your Smoke Bomb and swap to Edge Transit, opening up your menu as soon as you've pressed the key to swap weapons. Next, swap to the Knucklehead Final Stand loadout, as fast as you can, and close the menu. Hold down Shoot as you exit the menu to dump Edge Transit, aiming below his chest to maximize grenade launcher damage. This final is so tight that I ended up rebinding my loadout menu key, which is the left arrow key by default. This will not be an issue for controller players as they can put their Knucklehead loadout in the first loadout position, but for mouse and keyboard, you'll need to rebind the left arrow key in your mouse or keyboard software, as there's no in-game rebind option. Let's watch that Final Stand back, full speed, no commentary, so you can get the full picture. With Transcendence, the Final Stand rotation is quite a bit simpler and also a little less tight. Immediately after sending the boss to Final Stand, pop Still Hunt Goldie and Transcendence, then swap to your first Final Stand loadout. After exiting the menu, swap to your primary weapon and wait for the Darkness Blast audio visual cue to throw your melee end grenade, Acrobat dodging right after. Now spray your primary weapon at the boss's chest, and as soon as you see any damage numbers, swap to Still Hunt and press super. Fire the super in the Still Hunt, and then throw your Smoke Bomb and swap to Edge Transit. Once again, open up your menu as soon as you've pressed the key to swap weapons so that Edge Transit is equipped when you come out of your menu. Swap to the Knucklehead loadout, exit the menu, and hold shoot. Once again, aiming below his chest while dumping edge transit. Let's watch that back so we can get a full picture of the final stand with Transcendence. Something you might be wondering about is, what about the Cascade Envious Edge Transit Shiny roll? Well, if you have that roll, Final Stand is going to be much easier for you. Just make sure to do what I do in these Final Stands, but add on an extra Still Hunt shot to proc Cascade point, and Final Stand will be over very quickly. And that's Solo Witness. Running is pretty tricky with a lot of ways to die and a lot of ways to run at a time, but the more you do it, the more structured it will become. Damage is very difficult, and learning the rotations for normal phases, third phase, and final can take a lot of time, especially if you're not already proficient with dodging the boss's attacks. But practice makes perfect, and I believe this solo is 100% consistent, meaning that if you put in enough time, you can clear it almost every time. I hope you guys liked this video. Silken and I put in a lot of work, and tried to get this out as soon as possible, so thanks for watching.